Welcome back. Lab 7. Lab 7 is creating and using an automated pool. So we are going to set up a vCenter server folder for virtual desktops. We're going to create an automated pool with dedicated assignment desktops. We'll verify the creation of that pool by connecting to it. We'll set up a second concurrent connection to a desktop in the pool, and then we will delete that automated pool and shut it all down. All right, so task 1, we're going to create a vCenter server pool. So we'll log into the VMV student machine here, and we're going to log into the vSphere client, which I've already done, but let's go back and do that in front of you for the fun of it. Log in as administrator. Okay, and then we are going to be in VM and templates view. So we're going to go up here and select VM and templates, and we want to click on the training data center, right click on it, and go to new folder. And what are we going to call it? Oh, sales desktops. I can't read the documentation, it's too small. Sales dash desktops. Okay. And then that's task 1. Task 2, let's create an automated pool. So I know I had previously told you that we couldn't do this on the VMV student machine, but that's when it was Windows XP. I have updated it to Windows 7, so you can go ahead and go into the View Admin Console from here, which has the documentation, shows you there. It's https://vmv-cs/admin. That's our administrator console, remember. The lab documentation actually has the FQDN on there, the fully qualified, telling you to go to vmv-cs.train.local/admin. You should be able to get away with just doing vmv-cs/admin. You do need to have the HTTPS though. We're going to get in here as administrator. I need to figure out how to be able to type and talk at the same time. That's one skill I have not mastered. And, okay, so again, things might look a little bit different, and some of the words are different because the documentation in the lab is referring to Horizon 5X, and we're doing 6 here. So concepts are similar, you just have to, the main difference would be this catalog right here. So you have to open up catalog to get to desktop pools. It'll tell you to do what? In the pools page, click add. So select inventory and then pools. So we don't have inventory and pools, we have catalog. When you log in, it'll probably look like this, and you see these things, and you're thinking, what the heck? Open up catalog, click on desktop pools. Now you'll see something similar to what we see in the lab documentation. You'll see our existing pools right there. We'll click on add. We're going to do an automated pool. Click next. We're going to do a dedicated with, we're going to enable automatic assignment, and we click next. We're going to do full clones this time, so let's leave full clones enabled, and we'll click next. The ID is going to be pool-sales XP. It's really Windows 7, but let's just keep it all matching what the documentation says here. The display name will be sales XP. The view folder will be sales desktops, which we created a while ago, right? The description doesn't really matter. You can put whatever here. It's really just for the view admin to reference later. Again, just to revisit, the ID is, well, the ID and the display name will both show up in the view administrator. ID is it's used for different things, but the display name is what will show up to the end user when they launch the View client. That's what they will see. So they don't have to match. I like to keep them the same usually in my life because it just makes things simpler, more simple. We'll click next. And now what options are we going to deal with here? We've had a lecture about all of these fun different options and what they do. In this particular example, we're just going to go ahead and change that to allow users to reset their desktops. Remember, if we set this state to disabled, that means we could build the pool right now, but then build it and then entitle it, but then not allow people to access it right away. And then the restrictions again would be for tags, remote settings. This is where you're going to decide or set whether or not a machine is persistent or non-persistent. Well, click next, and what are we going to do here? Enable provisioning. Now we want to set the naming pattern. So in this particular case, we're going to go with a naming pattern of ESXi-sales, a maximum number of 2, spare powered on is 1, and provision on demand 1. On the storage optimization, we're just going to bypass this. We're not using vSAN anyways, so we'll just go straight to the vCenter server settings, and we're going to click on Browse here. And DT template should show up there, so we're going to go ahead and click on that, tell it OK. VM folder location. We should see our sales desktop folder there that we just created on the vCenter server. OK. Host or cluster. It's only going to be 1. That's our ESXi train. Resource pool. We're just going to have the 1 desktops. OK. For our data stores, we're going to select the larger of the 2. So in the documentation, I don't know, it shows like a 75 gigabyte, but we've got 150, so we're rolling deep. Go ahead and select that top one there. And we should be just about ready to roll. We're going to go ahead and click on Next. In the advanced storage options, we're just going to click Next. In the specification wizard, again, it's telling you to use the Windows XP one. This is going to be a Windows 7 machine, but again, it aligns with this Windows XP one, so we're going to go ahead and select that. And we'll click Next. We should get the confirmation page. And are we ready to move on? We're going to go ahead and let's see here. Click there. Okay, yeah. We want to mark the entitle users after this wizard finishes, so we can just add them right up front. We'll click Finish, and then we're going to be prompted to entitle some users right away. If you hadn't done that, then you could just go back into that pool and then go up to these bars across the top here and actually do the entitlements. So we're going to click on Add, and it tells us to search for View. And who are we going to entitle? View user. So that's a group right there. All the view users, not view user, but view users. And we'll tell it OK. And then I guess we're going to close. And we can sit here and monitor and see what's happening. Is this one we just created? Sales pool. We can go in there. And if you go into inventory, you can see what's going on with the machines. It's currently provisioning. This may take a while. In the lab environment, it's largely dependent upon the resources you have at hand. So in a production environment, I've seen this take, as little as 2 or 3 minutes. In the lab environment, I've seen it take anywhere from 5 to 20. So if you're sitting here for 20 or 30 minutes, that still says provisioning. Don't worry just yet. Give it some time. All right, so while we're waiting for that, it also tells us that if you'd like to go ahead and watch, you can log back into the vSphere client. You can watch what's happening. By opening this guy up right here and going to tasks and events. Pull that guy down and we can see what's happening. So it's reconfiguring. You'll see it do some reboots. You can see down here the active process. Right now it's configuring virtual disk digest. And it's so more of a topic for an advanced class, but I almost mentioned it when I was doing the little review right here, but when you get into creating the virtual machines, when you're building out the pool, there's this point in the storage options where it says to enable the view storage accelerator. I don't think it's in the lab documentation. They skip over it. But if you uncheck that box, you lose some optimization in the long run, but it'll make your pools build faster. So you'll end up using more storage in the long run. What that does is it goes in and it cleans up storage that has been consumed but is not really being used, if that makes sense. But it has this disk digest, which takes longer to process during the creation of the pools themselves. So if we had actually unchecked that, this process right here would be going along much faster. So if we go back to the view administrator and refresh, you'll see now we're in customizing state. And the customizing state is what often takes quite some time. So back over here, we'll notice that the virtual disk digest has completed finally. It powered on the virtual machine, and now it's in customizing state. And like watching a pot boil, we can sit here and just wait for this. Go grab a cup of coffee, maybe come back and see what state it's in. And then eventually, when you hit refresh, it'll show available state. So now we can move on and test this thing. So we're now at task 3. In task 3, it's telling us to go ahead and open up CLA. So let's go back to our guy here. Let's power this on if it's not already. And then we'll crack open the console. While we're waiting for that, I'm going to go ahead and power on CLB because I know that's going to be next. So we'll go ahead and log into this guy. And when we get in there, we're going to launch our View client and try to log into the Sales XP desktop, which is actually a Windows 7 machine. But hey. It didn't prompt me for credentials because I actually just finished up another lab and I already authenticated, but it'll probably prompt you for credentials depending on how you're doing these labs. I'm going to go ahead and just hit continue here. Oh, there we go. Prompt me for credentials. And hey, look, there's our Sales XP desktop. Let's click on that guy. And there we go. We're connecting. Okay, task 4 wants us to create a second connection to a desktop pool. So remember we told it to provision desktops on demand, and we set a maximum of 2. So what's happening here in the background is that we have just connected to a desktop. Now there are no desktops available, and we wanted to have at least one available. So if you go back here and click refresh, notice now what's happening is another desktop is being provisioned. We've taken this one, it's not available, so now this one's firing up. And if you follow the lab documentation exactly how it goes, I don't know if it tells you to wait for it, because if we log into CLB right now and we try to connect, it's not going to let us in right away actually. So I don't know why it doesn't say that in the desktop, but if we try to connect right now on CLB, it's going to come up and tell us that there's no desktop sources available. So what I'm going to tell you to do, and I don't see it in the lab documentation unless I'm overlooking it, is that we need to make sure that this goes from, provisioning, customize, all those steps we just waited a long time for. We have to make sure this gets to available. Once this second machine shows available, then we can continue with this lab right here. And so you'll see this was sales 1. It's building out sales 2 right now. One thing we could have done, I didn't want to deviate from the lab documentation, but if instead of telling it to, so when you go to do your lab, if you want to do this, instead of telling it to provision on demand, you could tell it to provision all desktops up front. So, again, instead of telling it to provision on demand, you can click that option when you see it to say provision all desktops up front or at once or whatever the option is, I can't remember. Then it'll build both of them out at the same exact time. And then what you could do is just move, straight through here onto task 4 and open up that second connection. So we'll just wait for this to get into an available state. You'll connect to it, and everything will be fine. Okay, so finally, if we go back and look at our View Admin console, you see it's now available. It took, I don't know, 15 minutes or something for me, so be patient with it, please. All right, so remember before we started that whole process waiting for that new machine, we had just opened a connection to CLA, that client A, right? We made a connection to that pool, and that is again what initiated it to go out there and build that secondary desktop, because we had it provisioned on demand. Again, if you set it to provision all of them up front, then you won't have to wait for that second one to provision because it'll already be provisioned. Task 4 in the lab is having us go and test a second connection, so now we're going to test that one that was just built, and it wants us to go to CLB, which you'll recall we actually just cloned off of CLA a little bit ago. So same idea, we're going to right click on that, open console, log into CLB. I had done this ahead of time, so your experience will probably be a little bit different. You may have to go up to VM here and go to guest and do Control-Alt-Delete and actually log in as trainee. I already did that, so that's why we're here. I'm going to launch the Horizon client. Again, we cloned CLA after we've installed the Horizon client, so that's why you don't have to go through that drama again. We're going to launch this guy right here. Should get prompted for credentials here in a little bit. I'll go ahead and continue on the security warning. And who are we using? View user B, right? So view user B this time, not A, because A already has a session. We'll type in our favorite password. And there we go. View user B has the same entitlements as A, because remember we entitled that group View Users, and they're both members of that group. So Sales XP is where we're going to connect, and if everything works properly, it'll reach out there and grab another session, and boom, there you go. Another session has been established. If we can find that window back here somewhere, our View Admin, and we refresh, you'll notice that, hey, look at that, now they're both connected. We're in the inventory section here, which is great for seeing what we have available as far as desktops and their status as they're recomposing or composing. But if we go over to sessions, this is a nice little section that we can visit as well, and it shows us more information about the active sessions. Now, if I had a pool of like 13 desktops, or even 3 for that matter, I wouldn't see them all here. I'm just going to see the connected ones. And what's cool about this is it shows me who's connected, right? I can see the user that's connected. I can see the name, machine name that they're using, so sales 1 or sales 2. The client ID, some of this other stuff. It's like the MAC address of the client, and you don't always use it. It kind of depends on how your environment's deployed. You can see which security server that we're connected through, if there is one. In this case, it's just this connection server. You can see how long they've been connected. So you'll notice I had connected to that first one 19 minutes ago. So it took just over 15 minutes, probably maybe 16 minutes to wait for that provisioning to occur. You'll see the time that their session was actually established, and then you'll see which display protocol they're using. So we forced them to PC over IP, but if you allow them to do RDP, you could tell that there as well. Horizon 6 and 7, of course, also you have the option to do blast, so that's another protocol that might show up there. I'm just going to deny this for now, and you'll notice it's not the same session, right? These are two completely different sessions that I have established to two different desktops altogether. And that's all that task 4 in this lab 7 is really having you do. The later parts, later steps that we're looking at here, they just have you go in and what are we doing? Disconnecting the sessions, and then we remove the entitlements, and then we delete the pool altogether. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We're going to close these guys out. I guess we're just trying to show that you don't have to do it from the machine itself. I can go into the session here. I can right-click on, maybe, if we behave. I can go into the session itself. I can right-click on that session. I can do disconnect session, log off session, reset. I can even send a message to the user themselves that'll pop up on their screen. So oftentimes when we're doing recompose processes, we'll come in here to be nice and we'll send some message like, hey, get out, I'm about, so you remember I can't type and talk at the same time, shut you down. That'd be nice, right? No. Usually I say something nice like, your machine is scheduled for an important update. Please save your work. This system will reboot in 3 minutes, or whatever you decide you want to say. So we send that message, and that'll pop up on the user's screen. And again, I did that to one user, but you can do a multi-select here and send it to all of them. And then if you're nice, you wait 3 minutes. If you're not, you just come in here and you say log off session. And I usually wait the minute, a lot of time I say, but hey, you know, whatever. What did it tell us to do? I'm just going off on a tangent here. It tells us to disconnect. Oh, told us to disable provisioning, and then we're just going to disconnect them, huh? Okay, yeah, you don't have to disconnect them. But what it does want us to do is make sure we go back to desktop pools here, click on that pool right there, and then we're going to delete that. You could also right-click and delete it. And then you have all these options. Hey, wait, you're about to remove a couple machines here. Do you just want to take them out of the view manager and leave the disks out there, or the VMs out there so you can use them later? Or do you want to just kill them all together? And I think it wants us to kill them all together because we're probably trying to save space in this lab environment. Yes, so we're going to delete them from disk, so they'll go bye-bye. The other thing is if you're just removing from the manager, then it's going to let you say, hey, do you want to leave that session active or do you want to terminate it immediately? So that's your choice. But we're just going to delete them all together, so you don't even get that option. We'll tell it OK, and then we're pretty much done with this lab. I wouldn't go straight into shutdown at this point right now. I wish NetLab had a little warning here saying wait a while. Because if you shut down everything at this point and you click the I'm done button as it's telling you to, then this process won't actually complete, and then you might actually end up running out of disk space. So if you don't mind, please just hold off and, I don't know, go do something else for a second and let this system process. And once you come back in here and it shows gone, once it's gone, I'll show deleting for a while. Once it's gone altogether, then you can go ahead and shut down. So if you shut down right now, it's going to leave it in an angry state. And that's all we have for lab. So there you go. So once you get to this screen where you no longer see the sales XP, then you're good to go. You can now go ahead and shut down. And that's lab 7.